Have you ever stopped to reflect on the extraordinary power that lies within you, waiting to be discovered? Imagine a magical path, a path illuminated by the ancient wisdom and deep intuition that resides in the core of your being. This invisible path, woven with threads of infinite possibilities, invites you to explore your limits, to defy conventions and path of self-discovery. We find a world full of mysteries and wonders to be discovered. From the moments of silence when intuition whispers its deepest secrets to the flashes of inspiration that guide us to new horizons, each step on this journey is an adventure in itself. Imagine waking up each morning with renewed clarity, with the certainty that you are in tune with your higher purpose. Visualize how your decisions become clearer, more certain, as you learn to trust that inner voice that always guides you to the right path. On this journey, we dive into the depths of our being, exploring the deepest layers of our consciousness and releasing the latent potential that awaits within us. We allow ourselves to flow with the rhythm of the universe, trusting that every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to learn, to transform into the best version of ourselves. We will explore together the tools and techniques that will help us develop our intuition, connect with our purpose, and manifest the life we have always desired. The Magic Path of Intuition. Florence Scovel Shinn. Lesson 1. The Magic Faith of Intuition. Prayer is when you call upon God, and intuition is when God calls upon you. True prayer means preparation, having made your demands upon the universal supply for anything good. Act immediately as if you expect to receive it. Demonstrate active faith, thus impressing the subconscious mind with expectation. There was a lady who knew the law of preparedness and bought expensive magazines to give herself the feeling of opulence. Intuition told her to buy the magazines. One way to cultivate intuition is that before going to sleep, say the following: "In the morning, I will know what to do." The ideas will turn to ashes before you start to reason. Intuition comes from your superconscious mind. It is God within you. The subconscious is simply power without direction, what you feel deeply or what you say with feeling. If it is imprinted in the subconscious and carried out in the smallest detail, it is your soul and must be restored. Imprint in the subconscious the perfect ideas of the superconscious mind instead of the doubts and fears of the conscious mind. Do this by repeating an affirmation: "Be still and see the power in me." In following intuition, you often go for one thing and get another. From the superconscious, the realm of intuition will reveal to you what you need to know. Be very calm and do affirmations. You have no need for resentment, resistance, fear, or any form of worry, etc. The situation you resent will be removed. Be still, maintain balance, and the power within will fight your battle. Anger and resentment cloud your vision and often affect your eyesight, preventing you from following your intuitive clues. For example, you meet a friend on the street and you cheerfully say to her, "What wonderful weather we are having." She replies, "Yes, but you look rather tired." You then reply with feeling, making your first misstep, "Oh no, I've never felt more rested in my life." Then she retorts, "Well, maybe you look bad because you're wearing a hat that fits you so badly." Filled with resentment, you run home to look in the mirror to see what was wrong with the hat. The back of your neck hurts because your mental attitude has caused a congestion there. That's where the slang expression comes from. The back of my neck hurts. Now you're about to catch a cold, or worse. Immediately invoke the law of forgiveness, send love and goodwill to your friend, and say, "Oh, power from above, give me another chance. This time I will not argue, I will be non-resistant, loving and kind." You have now neutralized the congestion and the ills that accompany it. The next time you meet your friend, you will be full of goodwill and you won't really care whether she likes it or not. Then you will say, "What a beautiful day," and she will reply, "How beautiful you look. Where did you get that beautiful hat?" It's not an emotional response to a situation. You're done with her. Otherwise, you will live the same experience over and over again. Poise is the pearl of great price. The game of life is a game of boomerangs, so everything you send out will come back. Jesus said to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You cannot hurt anyone without hurting yourself. We are all bound together by a mysterious magnetic force. What you send out in word or thought against another will reverberate upon yourself. If a person is purely on the mental plane, sukarma or return, it will take longer. If he is spiritually developed, he returns very quickly. The more you know, the more responsible you are. So learn your lessons and be thorough with the long path of experience. Send goodwill to your apparent enemy, and you will surround yourself with a great aura of protection. Your enemies are only those of your own mind, your subconscious beliefs. If you hate and resent a situation, you have stuck it to yourself because you attract what you fear or dislike. When someone has been unfair to you, you are filled with anger and resentment. You cannot forgive that person. Time passes, and another person does the same thing. That's because you have an image of injustice engraved in your subconscious. History will repeat itself until you think you are cursed by misfortune and injustice. There is only one way to neutralize it. Don't be bothered at all by the injustice and send goodwill to all concerned. Affirm, "My goodwill is now a strong tower around me. I change all enemies into harmony and all injustice into justice." You will be surprised how the law works. One of my students brought harmony out of chaos in her business affairs by using the above statement, just as the alchemists of old transmuted all base metals into gold. You have the power to transform evil into good. Therefore I say to you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Lesson 2. Becoming financially comfortable. Gratitude is the law of increase and complaint is the law of decrease. The material attitude towards money is to trust in your salary, your income, and your investments, which can decrease overnight. The spiritual attitude is to trust God for your supply, maintain your positions, and always realize that they are the manifestation of God. If one door closes, immediately another one opens. Money is a symbol of freedom and is part of the divine plan. There is an invisible supply that you can draw upon. It is the bank of imagination. When demonstrating prosperity or other blessings, first say your word. Affirm this statement. God is my supply, and great and happy financial surprises are now coming to me. Do something to demonstrate your faith, for faith without works dies. Buy a new purse or wallet saying, "This is my magic purse, to hold the money the universe sends me." It will give you a sense of prosperity and expectation. Buy a new fountain pen and say, "This is a magic pen to endorse me." Give away old clothes that make you feel poor. It will drag you down. This is the true prayer, which means preparation. Now you feel that you have already received on the invisible plane. Manifestation will come under grace. Things must never possess you. You must possess things. Do not fear loss, or your possessions will disappear. You never really possess that which you fear to lose, and if you do not appreciate a blessing, it does not impress itself upon your subconscious, and it will vanish from your life. For example, a lady possessed beautiful pearls and had great wealth. But she always spoke of lack, saying repeatedly, "Someday I will have to eat those pearls." Now her fortune has vanished, and the pearls were sold to buy food and other necessities. Words and thoughts are a form of radioactivity, and they do not return empty. By your words you justify yourself, and by your words you condemn yourself. Count your blessings. It is the law of increase. Be grateful for what you have, and you will attract more. Be always grateful. Gratitude is the law of increase, and complaint is the law of decrease. Be continually grateful for what you have, and for the manifestations of the invisible supply. The following affirmation has given wonderful results. I give thanks because the universe is my supply, and I am now linked with endless streams of steady money and ready under the grace of perfect forms. Another good affirmation is, I shall not want, for my supply precedes me. Faith must become a habit. No matter how much money you have, if you feel poor, you start losing money. Nothing comes into your life uninvited. You are always inviting poverty or prosperity through the quality of your thoughts. Now is the appointed time. Today is the day of my incredible luck. Silently affirm throughout the day an affirmation of truth to counteract negative thoughts. When the money goes out, it touches a hidden spring which releases large sums of money to come back to me, under grace in a miraculous way. This does not mean that you throw money away or spend without control. It means that you are not afraid to follow your intuitive clues, to spend or give. For example, One woman had the intuition to give $100 to a friend who had helped her a lot. Soon after, she received $1,000 from an unexpected source. Don't be afraid to make big demands on the bank of faith and trust in the company of the universe, but you can't attract more than you feel comfortable with. If you are comfortable with millions, millions will be comfortable with you. Financial freedom is God's idea for man. What God has done before, He can do for me and more. Don't look back or lament the hard times, or you will be dragged back into those conditions. Give thanks for the dawning of a new day. You must be immune to all discouragement and to adverse appearances. Affirm, the tide has turned to stay because the universe has a right to it. Then your barns will be filled with abundance. Lesson 3. The magical path of intuition. What you see with your inner eye, you find sooner or later on the outside. Awake thou who sleepest. All that thou desirest or requirest is already in thy path. But thou must be wide awake to thy good, to bring it into manifestation. Affirm, the power within sweeps from my mind and body all matters that are not divinely planned, and sets my house in order now and forever. The word sweep gives an image of action. This spiritual broom sweeps away all belief in lack, loss, failure, resentment, disharmony, sadness, and so on. You are asleep for your own good, as these negative thoughts clutter your mental house. You resent someone, so you give that person the power to hurt you. You feel you are a failure, so you miss the opportunity for brilliant success. You are overwhelmed by a sense of loss, and you believe that friends and prosperity have disappeared from your life. You are still asleep in the dream of opposites. Wake up and you will find a new world of health, wealth, and happiness with all your heart's desires fulfilled. This is possible thanks to your word, because your word is your magic wand. When you are in the deepest despair, it is time to wave your word over the situation. Baptize every failure by saying success. Never let the third dimension interfere with the fourth. The third dimension is the world of adverse appearances. It is the fog in which most people live. Your affirmation dispels the fog and the sun comes out. Affirm, now the sun rises in my mind and in my body, and I see clearly the fulfillment of my heart's desire. Your gloomy desires are mournfully answered. Your impassioned desires are long delayed or violently fulfilled. You long for flowers and say, poor me, no one ever sends them to me. One day you are walking down the street, and a pot of geraniums hits you on the head. They are your flowers, but they are not under grace in a perfect way. You should have said, I give thanks that my flowers come from the universe, under grace in a perfect way. Then they would have been received through the right channels. This is the law of nature. Use or lose. Hoarding and saving always leads to loss. Use what you have, and you will have more. If you save for a rainy day or for a case of sickness, they will surely come. Use the money you have freely but wisely, knowing that your invisible supply is always at hand. Soon the law of accumulation will be set in motion. Abundance will come and accumulate. Never say, I am broke, because that impresses the subconscious with an image of emptiness. The game of life is a game of solitaire. As you change, so do your affairs. Affirm, I am now immune to all hurts and frustrations. Inner power is perfect peace and perfect balance. A student once told me that her mother was always making scenes at parties at her sister's house. The mother said, I never want to have dinner in this house again. The next year she was in the hospital. The student visited her and the mother said, God has sent me this trial, so I will bear it with patience. The student replied, Mother, God did not send you this illness. You brought it on yourself with your angry words. You said you didn't want to have dinner at Hannah's house again, and here you are. The mother replied, Leave me alone. I prefer my old God, who sends trials and tribulations. The student asked her to think constructively while in the hospital to see herself walking into Hannah's house happy and cheerful. The mother did so and recovered within a few weeks, much to the surprise of the doctors. What you see with your inner eye, which is the faculty of imagination, you find sooner or later in the outer. So see clearly your goodness, your health, your success, and your happiness, if you want them to come true. Faith always bears fruit. I am often asked why it is easier to see failure than success, unhappiness than happiness. It has to do with our early training, which used to be negative. When good things happened, people would exclaim, This is too good to be true. Millions of people have neutralized their good with this attitude. You are responsible for your idle words, which impress the subconscious and are carefully carried out. Affirm, I see vividly my immediate and endless supply coming from a higher power, and all doors are open, all channels are free. I see vividly my radiant, perfect and permanent health. I see vividly my heart's desires come true in the twinkling of an eye. Do not visualize or force an image. It will appear in your consciousness from the superconscious. A powerful affirmation is, the light of lights flows through my mind, body and affairs, revealing all in divine order. I see clearly there are no obstacles in my way. I see clearly the open path of realization. It is also important to have a happy environment. No gloomy pictures. Keep your desk in order and have fresh blotting paper on hand. There is nothing like fresh blotting paper to attract big checks. A tidy conscience is a rich conscience. A London newspaper told the story of some African bosses who went around the city. Nothing impressed them until they saw the subway and an escalator. They were immediately fascinated and exclaimed, "Ah, the ground walks." He affirms, "Now I am on the ground that walks, that takes me directly to my promised land in a magical way." Don't sing sad songs to your subconscious and impress it with what you feel deeply. Your word is your magic wand. Nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen or too good to last. Order is the first law of heaven. Lesson 4. How to break with old ways of thinking. No one keeps you from your good but yourself. A negative idea, which you continually think about, will create a thought form in your subconscious. These thought forms will meet you on the path of your life until you neutralize them. If you are full of suspicion, you will soon find what you seek, what you fear. You attract it, and nothing can save you until you neutralize your fears. Act without fear, and take on the lions in your path. Your fears will be externalized in concrete experiences. Affirm, I give thanks for my success. Whirlwind, I sweep everything before me, because I work with spirit, and I follow the divine plan for my life. The decks are clear for divine action. This statement is very strong because it brings a feeling of tremendous power. The old thought forms dissolve, and the divine idea of success takes their place. Do not call someone poor if you do not want to be magnetized by it. The human mind is powerless to cope with these negative thoughts. Victory is won by the God within the superconscious mind. Affirm, I am magnetized by the universe. I have and possess from today and forever all that is mine by divine right. In the story of Cinderella, her stepmother and stepsisters were the thought forms she had constructed in her consciousness. Almost everyone has a cruel stepmother in their subconscious that prevents them from doing good, which is often called an inferiority complex. The fairy godmother appears to tell her that she can go to the ball and have all the things she wants. The fairy godmother is the superconscious mind, the inner God with whom everything is possible. Cinderella loses her glass slipper and gets her wish, her prince. Your fears turn you into a galley slave, so invoke the power within to set you free. Affirm, everything is possible here and now. Now I reach the seemingly unattainable. Embarking on a journey often breaks with old ways of thinking, as it implies a change of scenery and environment. New thoughts. People travel many miles with the intention of making some kind of cure, and come back a different person. People who come to Vicky and Carl's bat benefit enormously because they leave their worries behind. The natives are left with the fears and receive no benefit. Don't build a thought form of envy. It keeps you out of the promised land, yours. You build yourself a prison. No one keeps you out of your good, but yourself. A thought form of self-pity is one of the most dangerous thought forms you can have. The more you feel sorry for yourself, the worse things will get. Stay above the worry belt of consciousness, and then you will have instant manifestations. Your success, happiness, or abundance will happen in the blink of an eye. Don't let your heart be restless or afraid. Lesson 5. Health and happiness. A harmonious person never vibrates at the same rate as a germ. Health and happiness go hand in hand. Poor health is caused by disharmony. A teacher says, never ask a student, "What is wrong with you?" Ask him, "Who is the problem with you?" As long as someone can cause you anger, resentment, irritability, sadness, etc., a harmful reaction occurs in the cells of your body, which brings some kind of disease. For example, a woman had $200 taken from her unjustly. I told her to bless the person responsible, not to be angry, and to take the $200 out of the universal reserve, because if one door closes, another one opens. She said she could not, and from these negative thoughts, a judgment of evils arose. She wondered why I had brought that situation. I replied, "But you have always had a tight control of money. You have counted every penny, and you have saved and economized when you have had the intuition to spend or give. Saving is a good idea, but you cannot do it because you are violating the law of use. Then the karmic reactions come, and you have a deficit detachment, which annihilates the money, which you should have kept in circulation. Often the avalanche of losses comes from violating intuition. Lack and loss affect mood, as do financial headaches. Continued criticism and blaming produce acid deposits in the blood that lead to rheumatism. Hatred and resentment generate a poison in the system that leads to disease. Suddenly passing from despair to joy produces a chemical change in the organism. Fear and despair produce congestion and disease, while joy releases the proper circulation and health is restored. Now is the appointed time. Today is the day of amazing prosperity. This affirmation would bring about an immediate change in the affairs of the world. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, as are success or failure and lack or plenty, for words and thoughts are a form of radioactivity. Man must learn to take from the universal supply, for this will eliminate all poverty and limitation, which are states of mind. We live in a great sea of magnetic force called mental matter, which continually takes the form of man's desires. The body can be reshaped by treatment, which is a clear vision and an affirmation. I once told a patient to see herself bathed in the dazzling white light of spirit, which dissolves all that is not divinely planned. See yourself bathed daily in the dazzling light of lights, and age will not register in the cells of your body. Be not downcast and sorrowful, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Joy brings new strength, vigor, and vitality. Worry and fear tear the cells of the body. Many healthy people have become a nervous wreck from losing money, and their hair turns prematurely gray in a short time. People who have knowledge of spiritual truth go through great financial losses, always watching and feeling on the crest of the wave, being unperturbed by the appearance of loss. The money was restored. For example, a woman came to see me who had lost $30,000 when an investor used the money for himself. The lawyer told her she would never get it back. I told her to bless the man and forgive him, but to reclaim the $30,000 out of the abundance of spheres. If one door closes, another opens. And I added, never feel sorry for yourself and do all you can to keep feeling rich. And so she did. Friends who met her on the street said to her, "We don't need to ask you how you are, you look like $1 million." A few months later, the miracle happened. She got her money back. He had continued to vibrate with success and prosperity, and it could not stop coming to him. A discouraged and disharmonious person will catch a cold. A cheerful and fearless person will be immune to germs. For example, a woman goes out in the street when it is cold, dressed in evening clothes, but she feels very comfortable because she feels that she looks good and is full of illusion for a happy evening. If the same woman is dressed inappropriately or in a bad mood, she will come back complaining of a cold and discomfort, and the next day she will have a cough. A harmonious person never vibrates to the same rhythm as a germ. Fear and resentment affect the eye, and stubbornness and a strong personality affect the ear. If you feel dull, discouraged, or listless, do something to cheer yourself up, which means changing your vibration and continuously repeating this affirmation. A wonderful joy is on its way, and this wonderful joy is coming to stay. A person with a torrid liver is always sad and depressed. He thinks that it is the liver which gives him this negative mental attitude, but it is quite the opposite, for he is the problem of his liver. What affects the liver is condemnation, over-discrimination, blaming, caution, pity, vain remorse, and jealousy. Surely you may wonder why a person should not be discriminating and cautious. If he is ruled by discrimination and caution, he is not listening to his intuitive guidance, which often sends him a direction against which his reasoning mind reveals itself. The liver is a very sensitive organ and is quickly affected by wrong thinking, which is why the ancients call it liver, i.e., the place where anger, fear, cruel thoughts, etc. live. They affect the heart. A good affirmation to use is the following: "The light of lights flows through my mind, body, and affairs, revealing all in divine order. My heart is a happy heart, a fearless heart, a forgiving heart, a kind heart, in its right place, doing its right work." Skin diseases are caused by mental irritation. Someone has gotten under your skin. Instantaneous healings often occur in this way because of a sudden realization of the truth. Your body, in reality, is a spiritual body, incorruptible and indestructible, timeless and tireless, without birth or death. When every negative thought is erased, you will be enveloped in your body of light, and sadness and sighing will have passed, and death itself will have been vanquished. Do not be despondent or sad, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Lesson 6. Bring the future into the now. You must live fully in the now to make your dreams come true. Time and space are but a dream. Man must bring his future into the hour. Blessings that seem so far in the future are already prepared for you, waiting for you to believe in the manifestation. For example, a student wished for a watch. I told him to believe he had already received it, and he soon received it from a friend. Realization is manifestation. You ask how you can get rid of doubts and fears which prevent realization. The answer is by taking an affirmation which gives you a sense of security and satisfaction. If you are afraid of a big dog, say to him, "Go away, you braggart." Courts, fears, and adverse appearances are indeed great bluffs. A man who was continually worrying, who found it impossible to stop his worrying thoughts, took out his watch and said he would worry for half an hour. To his surprise, he found it was impossible to worry, because he had put into operation the law of non-resistance. He asked for the universal supply and sighed, "I won't make it." The successful man walks to the rhythm of the hidden music, with the beat in his thoughts. All traffic goes in his direction. He has strokes of luck without luck and without rhythm. He states, "The tide has turned to stay, because God has the right of way. He has turned the tide, he brings joy and abundance." You have had the right of way. This makes your future to be in the now. Show your active faith to change your course. Some people always live in the future, daydreaming, and never catch up with the now. One brother had a great vision and went to a big city where he connected with opportunities which brought him fame and fortune. The other was dedicated to telling what he would do when he got $1 million, but never went beyond his rural audience. You must live fully in the now for your dreams to come true, but always make sure that you are dreaming according to the divine plan. There is a divine design of your life in your subconscious mind. So unless the divine dreams the dream, those who dream it labor in vain. Affirm, "Let the divine design of my life be reflected in my conscious mind. Let me see clearly the perfect plan." The conscious mind must be redeemed from its erroneous thinking by giving it the right ideas to work from the subconscious. You may desire something that is not in the divine plan and find yourself continually blocked in its manifestation, or if you get it, it only brings you unhappiness and misfortune. Health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression are the essence of life and are meant for each individual, but the path of manifestation belongs to the great designer. For example, the store sends 2 sweaters instead of the one the customer ordered. She chose one that she had not selected at first and liked it much better. After that, she gladly left the selection of everything in life to infinite intelligence. The universal power is in my boat, and now I sail fearlessly in unknown seas. Many people are afraid of new adventures, panic at the thought of doing something different, even if the old conditions are unbearable. Sail happily in unknown seas, reach your promised land. People get exhausted doing the same thing over and over again. Have an interesting recreation, to use a new set of neurons. To succeed, the element of playfulness must enter into what you are doing. Let the ideal be the only reality in your life, then obstacles and hindrances will vanish, for they do not bother you. The spirit is the pure intelligence to which man turns to attune himself to himself. Do not limit yourself to a single radio station of life. Tune in to the infinite intelligence. Look with wonder at what is before you, with the fixed idea that your supply comes from infinite intelligence. You will always be provided for in both the big and the small. The big things of life will come easily, if you have no doubts and no fears. So live fully today and bring your future into the now. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look upon the fields, for they are already white for harvest. Lesson 7. The house that faith built. Faith is simply knowing that God can do all things. Hebrews 11:10 says, "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." This is a scientific statement, for since we live in a sea of magnetic force called mental substance, what we imagine is imprinted on those sensible substances and crystallizes sooner or later in the external. The experiences one encounters in life are one's own creations. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow said, "A man's life is the history of his fears. Why not make it the story of your faith? So that one day you can say, this is the health that faith built. This is the wealth that faith built. This is the success and happiness which faith built." Doubts and fears are sin because they imprint negative images in the mind and cause lack, limitations, or disasters to occur. Have faith in the affirmations you use. Never use an affirmation that does not have a sense of security. Faith is like the Gulf Stream, a river flowing through the ocean. Faith brings warmth, and it will change conditions for you. For example, a woman came to me with the appearance of a fleshly growth, which was quite noticeable and long-standing, but she had perfect faith that she could be healed. Weeks went by without any apparent change, but she would say, "I have perfect faith that God is doing His perfect work." One day she suddenly disappeared. Her friends were astonished and said to her, "You had better go to the doctor to see what has happened." She replied, "I am perfectly fine. God has done His perfect work." Faith is simply knowing that God can do it. Every unpleasant condition in your life is the result of a lack of faith. A student obtained several $1,000s after years of lack, but his first act was driven by fear, not faith. He bought a lot of shoes just in case he ran out of money again. His motive was wrong. Watch your own motives with all diligence, for life depends on them. If his motive had it been simply the desire to have many shoes, it would have been constructive, but in reality, it was a preparation for loss. Therefore, he soon had many shoes, but no money. Many people hold back their manifestations, worrying about evildoers. Someone is evil, someone is unjust or cruel. Resentment is a violation of the law of love, in parentheses of goodwill, and is a barrier to your desires. Trust in the Lord and do good. It means never to doubt the power of God. Trust in the infinite intelligence to manage your things. Never interfere with doubts or worries, and let every act be prompted by good motives. Follow your intuitive impulses and prepare for the blessings you have asked for, regardless of adverse appearances. True prayer means preparation. For example, one lady wanted a radio, so she made a place for it in a corner and kept it dust-free. If your manifestation is delayed, you haven't dusted it off. The explorer and adventurer in you will pull you through. It is your divine self, the superconscious one, who knows neither defeat nor failure. With fearless faith, the mountains recede into your subconscious and thus disappear into the outer. The lions in your path cannot harm you when you turn to the universal power for protection and send goodwill to the lions. You can never receive what you do not see yourself receiving, because everything comes through you, not to you. An athlete said he was working on his long jump. He was lying down watching a victory. A person with success consciousness is someone who doesn't know he is a failure, even when he fails. His view of success is strong and unaffected by adverse conditions. He remains in active tension. Faith states, "I am wide awake for my own good. I never miss a trick." Often we have heard people say that certain things are bad for our health, but we have never heard them say that other things are bad for wealth. Broken chairs, clutter, etc. are bad for wealth because they keep us in a bad vibration. One man told me that he had brought order to his life by tidying up his desk. He threw away old letters, pieces of string and faded ink pens and boxed up papers which were important to him. External conditions changed, and a new world of order and prosperity opened up before him. As you change your consciousness, all conditions around you change. Do not neglect the day of small things, for small beginnings have great endings. According to your faith, it shall be done unto you. Lesson 8. Let not your heart's desire become a disease of the heart. Every trial is a process of purification. Many people do not receive their heart's desire because they desire it too intensely. They long for it, instead of feeling that they have already received it. If they would believe that before they call it has already been answered, then they would be quite free of worry and anxiety and would live in the moment with joy. When you can be happy, with or without your heart's desire, it will suddenly appear because your ship will come in a sea of never mind. Be happy, and something will happen. Feel rich, and the richness will manifest outwardly. All suffering is a spiritual awakener. You have been asleep about something. Maybe you have been unfair, unforgiving, ungrateful, critical, or intolerant. Maybe you've been afraid to follow an intuitive lead. Suddenly the meat factories start running because the way of the transgressor is hard. For example, you condemned someone and now someone condemns you. You were unjust and now someone is unjust to you. You were intolerant and someone is intolerant of you, and so on. Now you are awake, and instead of blaming people or circumstances for your unhappiness, you look back to see why you brought the situation on yourself. Someone you disliked hurt you, but you gave that person the power to hurt you because you denied them love and goodwill. Your own poisoned arrows have returned to you. Now invoke the law of forgiveness and affirm the affirmation, I invoke the law of forgiveness. I am free from error. I am under grace and not under karmic law. Forgive the person or persons who have wronged you, sending them love and goodwill, saying, I forgive them. Then, as in a kaleidoscope, the whole situation changes, for love is the fulfillment of the law. Your apparent enemies are transmuted into friends and serve, consciously and unconsciously, the divine plan of your life. Tolerance is learned through suffering. If your unhappy experiences make you bitter and resentful, you will attract more of the same variety. Harness your karma so that experiences do not repeat themselves. Fear of the law is the beginning of wisdom. One day, I was in the toy section of a crowded store, and a little boy was standing in front of a huge bear who was bobbing his head up and down and looked quite ferocious. A stranger leaned over to him and asked him, "Little boy, aren't you afraid of that big bear?" He answered, "No, ma'am. Bears don't bite good children." His conscience was clear and he was not afraid. To receive the heart's desire, one must erase all karma as well as anxiety, impatience, and fear. In the law, we are told to wait patiently. Patience means non-resistance. Practice non-resistance to the law, and it will make your wish come true. I heard a man say, "The good Lord takes his time. He is the only man you can't rush." It came to me as a direct message, for I had become impatient and was trying to force a manifestation. Suddenly I realized that the more patient, in parentheses, not resistant, I was, the faster the universe responded. Soon the manifestation came, on a calm sea. People often withhold the demonstration of their good, delineating happy channels. The man who believes in infinite intelligence knows the way to realization. For example, a woman had a commercial enterprise which she wished to develop. She tried every avenue she could think of, but no one was interested enough to help her. She didn't resist and put it in the hands of the universe, saying, "I'll let the universe take care of this. I'll let it go." She was visiting in a distant city and met a woman, apparently by chance, who asked her if she could undertake the enterprise. The universe is eternal, reliable and unchanging, but you have to give way to it. Personal will, it keeps you out of your own realm. For example, a friend came to tell me that she would be forced to sell a piece of jewelry for money. She did not want to sell it and regretted that it was necessary to do so. I told her, "Well, this pin is not yours. It belongs to the Divine Spirit. Now we will place it on the altar. If it is the will of the Spirit, you will sell it. If not, you will receive the money in another way." A few days later, she phoned and said, I did not have to sell the brooch. I got an unexpected check which gave me the money I needed. She had applied this wonderful law of renunciation, so difficult for many people to understand. The desire of the heart can only be achieved by non-resistance. For example, one of my students said that the man she cared for was very cruel and indifferent. She was looking forward to spending New Year's Eve with him when he suddenly announced that he had another engagement that night. Tears of anger and resentment were streaming down her cheeks. I told him, "You are completely demagnetized, so you are taking the good out of it. When you see him, don't get angry or reproach him for anything. Bless him and tell him you wish him a happy evening." She did this to his surprise. He could not understand her change of attitude. The next day, he telephoned her and asked if he could spend New Year's Eve with her. He said nothing more about his previous plans. At one of my Oneness Society meetings, I discussed the following treatment to dissolve all anger and resentment. The light of infinite intelligence flows through your consciousness, dissolving and dissipating all anger and resentment. You are at peace with yourself and the whole world. One woman told me after the meeting that she felt enveloped in a fiery light that swept all discord from her consciousness forever. She said to me, "When you were speaking, I realized that I had lost everything I had ever loved because of anger. But now I feel I can never be angry again." It was a wonderful experience. Many people think that if they can control their temper or not show their anger, that is enough. It's not. The vibration comes out anyway. As long as you can move inward, there will be discord in your life. You must be clean to free yourself from anger and its effects. Don't let appearances rock your boat. I had a patient who once said, "I should have been angry, but I wasn't. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. I was afraid. I should have been afraid, but I wasn't. I should have been afraid, I should have been angry, but I wasn't." This showed spiritual growth. In your subconscious, there are negative things and beliefs imprinted in it from your many life experiences. Therefore, it must be renewed by flooding it with the perfect ideas of the superconscious, your divine self. The goal is love and goodwill towards all. I met a man who said to me, "Of course I love everybody, but there are a lot of people I don't like." I replied, "No, you still have some stains of ill will on your conscience. You'll have to go back to the dry cleaners." Every test is a purification process. When they don't affect us, we don't attract them. I have a friend who says that whenever she needs money, she gets into a cab to feel rich. One stormy, slushy day, she got a definite tip for a cab. She told me, "I argued with my rich heavenly Father, and I said, 'God, I'd rather save the dollar and the meter.' So I got my way and took the subway, but when I got home I discovered I had lost $1. The most expensive thing is to violate a hunch. If the money is not used for the right purposes, it will go somewhere uninteresting or unhappy. The moment you make your request, the infinite spirit knows the path of fulfillment. Only doubt, fear, or reasoning keep your good away. Live fully in the wondrous now, with joyful expectation, knowing that God is the how, God is the when, and God is the where. You must respond to every negative thought with a word of authority. If you entertain them or pay attention to them, the army of strangers will encamp in your consciousness. Your doubts, fears, and resentments will settle in to stay, bringing a harvest of misfortune. A good affirmation is, "I am one with the Almighty Spirit. I am one with my good, for the Spirit is my good in immediate action." Your blessing is already here, waiting for you to believe that it is possible to get it. Worry and fear will keep you from it. Sometimes a manifestation comes through an irritating counter. One student told me that he had wished for a certain venture to be a success. He became anxious and worried about it. Then something else came into her life to worry her, which took her thoughts completely away from the business. She forgot to worry about it. Suddenly, she received a phone message that the business had closed, followed by a large check. She had diverted her worrisome thoughts long enough for the business to close. When you have completely discarded your worries, there will be nothing to interfere with the immediate manifestation of every good and perfect gift. For your heart's desire is no longer a disease of the heart. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Lesson 9. Infinite Intelligence, the Great Magician. When you realize that time and space are but a dream, You live suspended in the moment, and time can never touch you. Magic and miracle come from the same root word. It is good to go see a magician from time to time, to realize that things appear suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere. Of course, with the magician, it is all about a trick. Out of his hats come rabbits and ducks, out of his sleeve a fish tank. Now we must realize that with infinite intelligence, the seemingly impossible can come true. The universal power, the great magician, transforms a curse into a blessing, despair into joy, lack into abundance, sickness into health, etc. There is no limit to the good that God has prepared for man. Only doubt or unbelief extinguishes the power within each man. However, faith revives the power, so it is necessary to do everything possible to develop faith in that power. Sometimes a new affirmation or a new idea will suddenly give you the realization, that is the manifestation. In one of my classes, I explained that you need to become like a little child to be a good manifester and introduce the element of play. Then I said, let's consider the universal power as the great magician, and let's pull out of his hat whatever we want or need. This eliminates all questioning as to the channel. We simply see the giver of the gift. One of those present was working in real estate, and a few days later his company asked him to locate a 7-story building in a particular neighborhood for a client. It seemed impossible to find what he wanted, and he became discouraged. Then he thought of the great magician's hat, closed his eyes and said, "Now I draw from the great magician's hat the right 7-story building in the right place." Very soon he entered the building that was correct in every way. Be wide awake for your own sake and let every event of the day teach you something. For example, I had taken my watch to the jewelry store to have it repaired, and after waiting a month, I got it back, but wasting 10 minutes a day. I was a bit upset when I put it on my wrist, and it fell off my hand onto the wooden floor. At that moment, meek and without resisting, I exclaimed, "I baptize it as a success." You saw the chapter entitled The Law of Non-Resistance in the Game of Life and How to Play It. I picked it up and it was still ticking, so I put it on and went out. The next day, the clock was still running normally, and to my surprise, it was telling time perfectly. By the fall, it had regulated itself. So, if you have a bump of any kind, know that you are regulating yourself, and you will come out of it much improved. The person who resists and resents will have to be regulated many times. Your supply is always with you, as it is prepared well in advance. The following is a very good affirmation. Reveal to me the storehouse of the great magician. Now I put on the glasses of the spiritual field. Pretend that you have the spiritual field glasses, which bring the distant blessings very close. With these field glasses, you see avalanches of checks, bills, and coins. You see health, happiness, success, etc. Don't visualize. Let the divine ideas enter your conscious mind. You are now linking with your invisible supply, which manifests outwardly through the awareness of having received. Worry, doubt, and fear fog your spiritual field glasses. They must be continually cleansed with fresh inspiration and faith. Perhaps a friend's faith in you. Have faith in yourself. There is always some way to recharge yourself like a battery, and suddenly the divine plan will unfold right at your feet, because the ground you walk on is harvest ground. All unhappiness comes from not being able to see your good clearly. So if you are assailed by doubts and fears, do something immediately to demonstrate your faith. A woman came to tell me about her perfect house. She lived in a small room in a hotel, and she was discouraged. So I told her to dig a ditch, to do something to show her faith. She came back one day with a long package, and she said to me, "Bless you." I asked him, "What is it?" He replied, "A carving knife. It's something I have no use for in a hotel." So his active faith, which is preparation, opened the way to his divinely designed home. Life is a stage on which you demonstrate that infinite intelligence is your defense, your deliverance, and your immediate and inexhaustible supply of all good. If you say you will do a thing, and then do not attend to it, it will be done for you violently, when you least expect it. For example, I had a ribbon belt on a dress with long streamers ending in tassels. One of the streamers seemed too long to me, and I kept telling myself, I have to shorten that tassel. But I never did. As they say in the country, one day I was climbing into the top seat of a bus when I felt a tug and a tear. I looked down, and the tassel had ripped off, leaving just the length I intended it to be. It was a minor experience, but it taught me not to say I was going to do a thing and then not do it. Don't despise the day of the little things. A woman told me the following story, which demonstrates the reality of her invisible supply. It was early spring and she wanted apple trees in bloom. She left in her car to go to the nearest farmer. She went to one after another, and each farmer told her it was too early for apple trees in bloom. Undaunted, he made one last attempt. He drove to the next farm to ask and got the same answer. He looked at the orchard and exclaimed, "Wow, there are blossoms on one of those trees." The farmer replied, "Those flowers came out after your arrival here. Trust in God and the seemingly impossible will come true." I knew a man who at 60 was broke and at 76 was earning $30,000 a year. He said his success came after he stopped worrying, which was after he was broke. His new ships of success came on a carefree sea. Time will register on your body and in your affairs as long as you believe in it. When you realize that time and space are but a dream, you live suspended in the moment, and time will never touch you. This is the consciousness of those who have become ascended masters. Jesus Christ said in the world of the three dimensions, "You will have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world." He had overcome the world, the thought of lack, limitation, and death itself, and realized the ascension. Jesus blessed the fishes, and immediately came the increase, because he had the unshakable conviction that the infinite inner intelligence did the work. He taught it to his disciples and to the people. He did not claim more for himself than for others. After 2,000 years, we realize the astonishing simplicity of his teachings. I have often said that most people look too much into his demonstrations, trying to force a channeling or speculating about the results of each move. There are 3 simple rules for taking advantage of all the tricks in the game of life. Speak the word, follow your hunches, and dig your ditches. This will keep you busy, living with the wonderful now, and you won't limit the universe by looking for channels. In one of my classes, we brought up the old proverb, "The watched pot never boils." One of the students said we should have a kettle that would do and not have to be watched when it boils. It whistles at you, just as your demonstration will whistle at you, when it is ready and when you are ready for it. Many people ask for conditions which they would not be big enough to handle. You have to grow in your manifestation. Your heart's desire is ripe, but you are green. I have known women who were full of doubts, fears, and suspicions, who asked for perfect love and companionship. They appeared in their lives for a short time, but then it ended tragically, because the old fears and suspicions were stronger than love and faith. Your good must be built on the rock of fearless faith. Ideals will come true if they are held without wavering. It is useless to say we have faith and then act in the opposite direction. Action impresses the subconscious, and if you run away from a situation, it will run after you. The only way to neutralize fear is to approach what you fear. Self-pity is one of the deadly sins. "Woe is me" is the worst statement you can make, because it isolates you from your inner power, and you will have more and more reasons to feel sorry for yourself. I give the example of a woman who came to me feeling abandoned and excluded from all the good things in life. I gave her the affirmation, "There is nothing too good for me." She repeated it hundreds of times, and suddenly, conditions began to change. Kind and influential friends entered her life, and new opportunities for success and prosperity opened up. Later, he was granted his heart's desire, which was to go abroad to study music. Bruce Barton says, "There is danger in regretting oneself. Go back to that infinite intelligence, the great magician, for I will even make rivers in the desert. I will compare him to a wise man who built his house upon a rock." Lesson 10. All that the fourth dimension offers is yours. You will get magical results when you truly give this supreme intelligence the right of way. The world of the fourth dimension is the world of perfect ideas. As these ideas become established in consciousness, they must come out because your world is crystallized thought. Most people have crystallized wrong conditions because they have served fear instead of faith. It takes a great effort of imagination to believe that life can be made perfect, free from all unhappy experiences. Then, when you believe it, it takes a great effort of will to keep believing when all outward appearances are against it. Do not judge by appearances. All miracles are based on this idea. We can only change conditions if we do not believe and do not allow ourselves to be disturbed by appearances. To a woman who was very distressed, I said, "None of these appearances deceive you." She clung to her conscience, and the divine plan for her good triumphed. We can no longer have the faith of a peasant. We must have an understanding of faith through knowledge of spiritual law. We control the conditions by speaking. To one student who was facing a financial problem, I said, "Stand back and let God do it." She replied, "That's all there is to it." And soon a new channel was opened for her supply. Yes, that's all there is to it. Let God do it. After all your readings and studies of metaphysics and ancient philosophy, you find that they teach you only one thing: let God do it. Eastern philosophy says, "Let the warrior within you fight." This idea appears countless times in all the sacred scriptures. Native American Indians believe that the Great Spirit is the source of their power. A woman visiting the Indians told me that she had interviewed an Indian who had been running all day carrying a message. She asked him if he did not feel tired. He replied, "I am not tired. The Great Spirit in me makes me run." Trusting God must become a habit, and it often takes a long time to form it. I was inspired to read in the newspaper about Omaha, the famous racehorse. The article said Omaha has run a mile before he picks up the pace. At one of my meetings, I said, "There are many here who have not yet got into their spiritual rhythm, but I see them all winning their race in the blink of an eye. Often discontent prevents you from getting into your rhythm. You are dissatisfied with yourself and with your conditions. You wish you were someone else. How wonderful it would be to be a beautiful movie star or an heiress of countless millions." On one of my trips to London, I announced the wonderful title of a song, "I'm Dying to Be Me." The first step to success is to rejoice in being yourself, and to know that the ground you walk on is sacred ground, and that you are expanding in the divine plan of your life. In the divine plan, every righteous desire of the heart is fulfilled. You are the protagonist on the stage of your life. You are never left behind in the fourth dimension. The divine plan unfolds by following intuition. C. Breton says, "To live intuitively is to live in the fourth dimension." The magical path takes you out of the house of bondage and into your promised land. It is the path of destiny, where your failures are transmuted into successes and disadvantages become stepping stones. I heard the following story on the radio, which gives a wonderful example. A man who could neither read nor write tried to get the position of janitor in a public school. He was rejected because of his illiteracy. Then a friend got him a job selling cigars. He was very successful, selling hundreds of cigars, and deposited the money in the bank with the help of a friend who wrote the deposit slips. After several years, he discovered that he had deposited $30,000 and decided to take some out. The teller said to him, "Write a check for the amount you wish to withdraw." The man replied, "I can't read or write." The paying teller was stunned and exclaimed, "My God, man, you have accumulated $30,000 without any education. Where would you be if you could read and write?" The man replied, "I would have been a janitor at number 1 public school, Hyde Park Corner, London. People are allowed to go up to the stands, gather the public and express their opinions on any religious, political or personal subject, say what they want about the ruling family, etc. The government believes it is a good way to allow them to let off steam. In passing, I stopped to listen to a poor, helpless individual who was shouting at the top of his voice, 'God does not exist, and I can prove it.' I thought, you have never proved God or you would not be where you are. If I had had with me a copy of The Game of Life and How to Play It, no doubt I would have placed it over his state with a blessing. We prove God by showing an active faith, which puts to flight all adverse appearances. There is nothing outside the fourth dimension. I have often been asked, if infinite intelligence supplies all our needs, and why is it necessary to pray for anything? I have answered, because that is the law. Man must take the first step. He must push the button to turn on the electric light. Many people never make big requests to the universal supply because they think it is asking too much. A woman came up to me and asked, "Is it wrong to ask for the things you really want, or should you only ask for what is necessary?" I answered, "What are the things you really want?" She said, "Love and beauty." I replied, "If you want them, they are necessary." When you have the fixed idea that there is only one power in the universe, all appearances of evil will disappear from your world. The problems come from the belief in duality, good and evil. To get a demonstration, we must know that infinite intelligence is the only power. Evil comes from man's false imaginations. I was in a restaurant with a friend who spilled something on her dress. She was sure it would leave a stain. I told her, "We will give you a treatment. The evil is unreal and leaves no stain." There was never the slightest stain left on the dress. There was no way of knowing where the accident had occurred. In the fourth dimension, evil has never registered. Only in his mind does man experience loss, lack, failure, illness, pain, etc. Often, people go through life resentful and disgruntled with some particular person, thus keeping alive the unhappy and harmful situation for mind, body, and affairs. One woman came in very full of resentment towards her niece. Everything her niece did irritated her. She said to me, "All I can think about is how badly my niece cleans her silver." It seemed like a trivial matter, but it was reacting on her in the form of rheumatism. I said, "Send her love and goodwill, and give her no advice. Let infinite wisdom enlighten and direct her." To her surprise, her niece gave a wonderful glow to the silver and changed in many ways. You will get magical results when you really give this supreme intelligence the right of way. The tide has turned to stay because God has the right of way. I gave this statement when I was speaking in California. A man in the audience came up to me after the meeting and said, "That's a wonderful statement. I am an engineer, and I know what it means to have the right of way." Desire is a tremendous power, and it must be directed correctly. You can desire the wrong things and the wrong conditions, so, to give the supreme intelligence the right of way, you must say, "I desire only what God desires through me." The wrong desire will vanish and will be replaced by the right aspirations. When you look back, you will say, "Thank heaven that I did not get the things I wanted so much when I was 18 years old. I wish I hadn't gotten the things I wanted when I was 22. Assure yourself that your desires are infallible by saying, "I desire that divine ideas be realized only under grace and in a perfect manner." In The Game of Life and How to Play It, I say that health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression are the square of life. Go to the fourth dimension first, and your perfect life plan will come true. You will fill the place that no one else can fill, the righteous desires of the heart, no matter how extravagant or seemingly unattainable, will be added to you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Matthew 7:7.